What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at AVAIYA is what the world needs.
Hello, AVAIYA family. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner Ike Allen and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of AVAIYA University. AVAIYA is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you all, as always, for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Candace Plattor, is back with us today to talk about self-respect, the antidote to self-betrayal and self-deception. Candace is an addictions therapist in private practice, where she specializes in working with the family and other loved ones of people who are struggling with addiction in her unique and signature family addiction counseling and therapy program. As a former addict with almost, I'm not sure how long, 34 years or 35?
I'll be 35 next month in July.
There you go. Almost 35 years clean and sober. Candace has learned that overcoming addiction is a family condition. Everyone in the family is affected by addiction and everyone needs to heal. For more than 3 decades, she has been helping both addicts and their loved ones understand their dysfunctional behaviors and make healthier life choices. Welcome back to AVAIYA, Candace.
Thanks, Andy. It's really good to be here. I think I've been here maybe 4 times now or something.
I think at least. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, when I saw the 34, I was like, wait, it's probably longer now. So since it's been longer. A little while. Well, thank you so much for doing this again. And I'd love it if we start talking about abandonment or betrayal, abandonment, deception, all these different the topics we're discussing today. And what would you say is the most common self-talk when we feel like we've been betrayed, deceived, abandoned?
Yeah, it's probably different for everybody, but I think there is a commonality. And one of the commonalities for sure is people say to themselves, what did I do? What did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Why do people treat me like this? So they go into the shame, guilt spiral of thinking that it's about them somehow. I think I'll talk probably more about that a bit later. But I think that's the self-talk, that there's something wrong with me. And so the variations of that is what we tell ourselves usually.
Yeah, interesting.
Not a good thing to do.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of us tend to go into some kind of shame cycle. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we go right there? Why do we immediately think, oh, this must be something's wrong with me?
Because I think the other piece is if I was better, different, this'er or that'er, this wouldn't be happening to me. So it must have something to do with me. It must be me. And I don't know what I did. And so it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute.
Right.
Until it does. And maybe today we'll start helping people make sense of it.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about after someone has been betrayed. And I mean, this could be betrayal in so many different ways, right? We could talk about infidelity, betrayal in a family system with a colleague. You know, there's many different kinds of betrayals, but what are some coping mechanisms when someone has experienced that kind of betrayal, abandonment, deception? How do we cope with that? What do we do?
You know, it's such a hard thing to go through. People just feel so devastated when they feel abandoned or betrayed or deceived. It's so hard. And I've been through this myself a number of times in my lifetime. And I just recently went through something like this with a friend. So I know it feels really, really hard and kind of like it tears us up inside. And we feel like we're not good enough. If we were good enough, if we were better, he wouldn't have cheated on me, or this wouldn't be happening to me. So when people feel this way about themselves, I think when I realized that a friend had abandoned or had betrayed me, I think I ate a lot more chocolate that day, right? So I think we get into behaviors or substances that either squash down the feelings that we're having because they're so difficult, those feelings. We don't want to feel them. We look for something that's going to make us feel better. This is why we do that, because we think it's going to make us feel better. So we either don't want to think about it at all, so we might use something like drugs or alcohol to just blot it out. Or we might go to the mall and spend too much, or we might eat too much chocolate, or. There's so many things that we can do to blot it out. But I think that's the major coping mechanism for that trigger of feeling so awful about yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And so obviously in the heat of the moment, in the beginning stages of healing from betrayal, right, it can be pretty intense. So what happens, I guess, if we don't deal with it, if we kind of cover it up with coping mechanisms and we don't really address how we feel, go through the steps of, I guess, the grief really that comes with something like that?
Yeah. And I love that question, because the way I see pain is that there are two kinds of pain. If we want to really boil it down, there are two kinds of pain. Excuse me. There's the kind of pain that just goes on and on and on and on and on and never stops. That kind of pain, just on and on. And that's how addiction really takes hold of people, is because there's no way to get it away from it, from the pain. So the other kind of pain hurts. It's not pleasant. It's hard, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We know that at some point we're going to feel better. And so we get to choose which kind of pain we'd rather have. So if we're going to choose the pain that goes on and on and on and on, then squashing it down is the way to go, because it'll never get better. And you'll just feel worse about yourself and worse about yourself. And you may even attract other people to you that hurt you and betray you, because you've got that energy going. You've got momentum going with that energy. But if you're willing to do the inner work that it takes to heal from something like this, then the pain can stop. And when you have somebody else in your life that starts to make, the way I want to say it, starts to make noises about abandonment and betrayal, you kind of have a minute to say, wait a minute, no, don't want that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's only if you're doing the inner work. If you're busy squashing it down, then you don't have any time to do that. You're just going to feel badly about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good point. I love that you mentioned that, right, the two different kinds of pain, and the ones that, yes, just kind of linger on and on and on because we've never really dealt with what's happened, or our grief, gone through the process of healing, as opposed to, yes, a very intense kind of pain, but going through it and processing, right? Processing what's happening. Yeah.
And coming out the other side of it so that you can live a life that you enjoy.
Right. Yeah. That's a beautifully said. I love that you mentioned that. And what would you say if we were to talk about, right, the truth about betrayal, the truth about deception? What would the truth be?
I think the truth is that it isn't about us. I think that when somebody has a need to behave in those ways, if some, like this situation with my friend, this is much more about her than it has anything to do with really me. I'm not saying I'm perfect at all, and I'm always willing to look at stuff if I'm being untoward. I want to know about that. But basically, people who treat us badly, that's about them. That isn't about us. That took me a really long time to understand. I grew up with a very narcissistic mother. I think I may have mentioned this in other summits that we've done together. And I always thought it was about me. All the things that she would do, all the behaviors that she had, and the way she was with me, I always thought it was about me. It was devastating to grow up that way. And then as an adult doing my inner work, what I realized is that really that was about her. It was about her need to behave in those ways, her need to feel better about herself by doing that. Right? And I think that there are many other ways that people can um, can heal trouble in their relationships. Certainly talking about something, being open, being honest, being real and authentic and genuine and attached, having some healthy attachment means that you don't have to betray somebody else. You don't have to be the person that's being betrayed or abandoned or deceived.
Right.
So there's lots of other roads that lead to a healthier Rome, lots of ways to not have to do that kind of behavior. But when somebody does that kind of behavior, they're not looking at those other roads. They're doing what they feel they have to do. And it isn't about us. It affects us. That's the thing. It affects us. And I felt very hurt, and people feel what they feel, but I didn't create that. And you didn't create that if you're being abandoned, betrayed, or deceived. The person that's doing that to you is not working on themselves.
Gotcha.
It doesn't have another way to express themselves or whatever.
Yeah. Yes, it's that old hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people.
Adage,
Yeah. And the other thing to understand is that when we are traumatized, it's not, and there's so many ways to be traumatized. It's often not really the trauma that's so difficult for us. It's the way we perceive the trauma. It's the way we look at how that affected us and hold on to that. We hold on to how that affected us more than we hold on to what the actual trauma was. Right. So again, I mean, I'm a therapist. I work mostly with addiction, but addiction covers so many different things. I really like getting underneath the pain that people have and figuring it out so they don't have to keep living with it. And if anybody out there is feeling a lot of pain right now, there's a way around that. There's that second kind of pain that can end, that will end.